Hello everyone, this is Evan, and welcome to Space Engineers. Now, I've done one video in the past of Space Engineers, but this time I'm covering one of the largest ships in my fleet. In fact, the largest ship in my fleet, the KMC Dragoness. So this is my flagship, and really has been since I started playing the game. I first made it, really, this was in my first 50 hours of Space Engineers. Was when I made this. I had only made a couple small fighters beforehand, and I was basing it off of an old build I had made in Minecraft on the server, a creative server where I'd made a large space fleet in the end. I thought the design looked pretty cool, so I carried it over to Space Engineers, and it turns out, it's okay. So we've got thrusters all along the sides. We've also got some rockets. This entire build is vanilla, by the way. Although I would recommend a speed mod when using it, just so that you can get the most out of its gravity cannons. But we've got thrusters. Actually, those aren't thrusters, but those are just a little greebling. There's a lot of greebling on the underside of the vessel, and less on the top. So let me just sort of flip it over real quick, so you can get a good look. Yeah, this is 30,000 blocks, I think. So it's no lightweight creation, but yeah, you can see there's a whole lot of little details and stuff, hydrogen engines, all kinds of stuff all over the sides. I tried to just sort of integrate the amount of thrusters I would need to push this thing around into the design in a way that looked natural, but I don't know how I did on that really, but it works. It's huge. Basically, I haven't been able to make, or haven't tried making anything bigger that really went successfully. Yeah, so it's got hangars here. This is actually a through hangar, so it goes all the way through if you had both of these open. So you got this sort of little corridor in between. Sort of comes down a little bit so you can fit the large gravity cannon up here. And we've also got the main hangar where we can dock small ships and little destroyers, what have you. This is actually a little docking spot for a dropship I made. We'll have to cover that later at some point, different video. We've got these big cubes. There's a couple of these throughout the ship, and they're just heavy armor surrounding a single decoy, which is yeah, there's two more back here. I think there's 2 or 4 in the front, just to sort of draw fire to really durable parts of the ship. This thing is, unfortunately, I tried at one point to make it atmosphere capable, which is what all these hydrogen down here are about. Never actually worked out. There is just too much mass here to adequately be, held up by hydrogen, or really anything. The only solution I had was having these huge detachable pods on the side that would have thrusters on them, but it made the part count go even higher than it already was. It wasn't practical. Not to mention the fact that the main thruster groups, this used to be Titan engines, but I wanted to have this whole thing vanilla, so I replaced them all with these ion engines. So it can be modded, and it was modded at one point. It had large broadside guns. I think I cut out this part of the hangar, and this part had some large modded cannons in there. It was a formidable ship in its modded state, but I kind of just wanted to be able to use it on any server or anything like that. Due to its immense size and weight, it's not really practical, but it is nice to show it off, and you get some use out of it there. Anyway, I'm going to demonstrate some of the powerful weaponry. So it's got one large centrally mounted gravity cannon. I think I measured that at around 800 meters a second at full power. And then, of course, we have the turreted one that shoots small block projectiles here. Oop. And you can see down the barrel here. There's your small block projectile, and it's on a little tiny rotor. And yeah, so I can actually, this entire turret is actually operated by gyroscopes and just rotors that are set to be loose. So that whole thing can just slew around on its own. And it actually has it's got 360 degrees of movement, and it can aim, I think, up to 20 degrees. It's like 20 or 15 degrees, somewhere in there. It's not bad at all. So let's just take, this is the Space Pirate ship, one of them. I'm just going to put it like over there, and I'm just going to shoot it with the gravity cannon so you can get a good idea of what kind of destructive power we're looking at. And though it's mostly light blocks, the effect on heavy armor is much the same, actually. Just because it's going so fast, it hardly makes a difference what it's hitting. Unless it hits a module, in which case it will deflect out. Like you can see, there's the projectile flying up over that way. But like, you know, let's hop out and take a look at that, because that looks like some major damage. Yeah, if we fly up to this thing, it just punched a huge hole, and then it tore out the entire hull here and then came out up top. I think it got deflected by some modules. Because when it, or maybe, I think I know what happened. Okay, so it came in like this. The top of the projectile caught here, which turned the projectile up, and then it went right through. It actually kind of operates like a real shell would. It sort of normalizes with surfaces, so. Because it is using, you know, however janky collision physics to do its damage, so it kind of, it also dissolves the projectile the more it goes through, so you're not going to get too much penetration on really well armored ships, but you're hardly ever going to encounter really well armored ships. Especially ones that can actually move, or, yeah, see, a lot of the projectile wasn't eaten up, which is less ideal for fighting smaller ships like this. But let's say if I were to punch one right through the engine cluster here, I don't know why it zoomed out right there, but I think that actually ate up the whole thing. But if I turn the ship down and also give some light to the upper area so you can see the turret, I'm going to use the turret now. And this is going to be a lot more convenient, I guess, if you're fighting smaller ships. So you can see we have control of the turret now with mouse controls. And now we can get into the sights. There's our target. This is just two little windows crossed over, so not much to it. There goes our projectile. And it hits, and it's not going to do that much damage. I put some warheads on it, but they are kind of inconsistent at the moment, so they don't always detonate when they should. I might just modify it to be just straight up kinetic punching, but it can deal, you know, pretty sizable damage to like, you know, light armored ships, and is a lot, you know, you don't have to waste as much material per shot, and you can still snipe like individual modules like engines and things with these. They don't fly quite as fast as the main projectiles either, since they don't have as many gravity generators driving them, but you can still deal some pretty serious damage. As you can see, it's just sort of chunking that light armor apart. The regular weaponry of this ship is nothing to scoff at either. It's got an array of, you can see them all over, hole suckers, all kinds of Gatling guns and rocket launchers. So if I just sort of remote access and just sort of casually hand that over to the space pirates, you can see I have some targeting mods on right now, which aren't actually doing anything for the performance of this ship, but yeah, you can see a little drone there shooting at something over there. But yeah, so it puts in work. The regular armament of this thing is nothing short of excessive. Yeah. When other ships attack, they tend to actually hit the turret first, which is kind of interesting. And I think that's just because that it's got a small block grid on it, and I guess they default to attacking those for some reason. Yeah, you can see it's kind of hitting the turret pretty hard. Yeah, the turret usually goes out of action pretty quickly, but so does the enemy ship, and they do spend a lot of time trying to shoot that down. I think I actually have more guns on the underside of the vessel, but for demonstration purposes, I think this is perfectly sufficient. You can see that poor little cruiser up there is not having a good day. Yeah, it's like completely disabled in basically no time flat. Even if I hadn't, pre-chunked it with the gravity cannon, it still would have just shredded it to pieces. And I've sustained really no damage other than some damage to the turret. Yeah, there's some of these on fire. Pretty sure the actual projectile building system has probably been damaged or destroyed. Let me actually give it a check. It should be, for the most part, fine. Well, I think, oh yeah, the welders. Okay. Yeah, so minor damage though. Just sort of damage to this turret, which I hardly ever use anyway. In fact, I'm probably going to remove it in future versions of the ship to sort of streamline the hull and save on parts and FPS. I don't think, yeah, okay. So the camera for the main gun also got knocked out, just because it's on the front and gets targeted first. But yeah, other than that, this thing fares really well against most opponents, and though is impractical to build in survival mode, you'd be better off, building other things with that. It is certainly powerful, and there's also, if someone's dumb enough to get right next to you in like a brawling distance, you've got these batteries of rocket launchers on each side, and those can fire pretty quick, up to 800 meters, of course, just because that's the default range of the suckers. But yeah, you got that side, you've got that side. Yep. That's the ship. Lots of armor, almost 2 blocks in all places, and gravity cannons to boot.